America is often sold as the land of dreams, big cities, high salaries, and a life full of promise. But that's not the whole story. Beneath the map of America lie small towns slowly fading, not because of natural disasters, but because of dead economies, environmental collapse, high crime, or extreme isolation. In this video, we'll dive into some of the worst small towns to live in across the US. This isn't about whether a place is pretty or ugly, it's about hard realities few people talk about. We'll break down poverty rates, income levels, crime stats, and bizarre but true facts one by one. If you've ever wondered just how bad a town can get before it truly dies, let's begin. The name sounds like a joke, but living here often feels like the consequence itself. This small town in southern New Mexico is home to around 6,000 people, and its economy is barely moving. Median household income sits at just $29,000 a year, less than half the US national average. Even worse, about 34 to 35% of the population lives below the poverty line. Jobs are mostly in low-wage services, hot spring tourism, and part-time gigs. Young people tend to leave, leaving behind an aging population and a town growing quieter every year. Summers hit extreme highs, above 104 degrees Fahrenheit, while access to healthcare and entertainment is limited. The town once drew attention from Hollywood. A 1997 film, Truth or Consequences, NM, and a 2020 documentary used its name. Ironically, the fame never changed the town's actual fate. If Truth or Consequences suffers from lack of opportunity, Niobrara is a town slowly disappearing. Located in northeastern Nebraska, Niobrara has a population of around 360 people and feels more like a large retirement village than a functioning community. The median age is close to 55, a clear sign that younger generations don't stick around. On paper, Niobrara isn't a crime hotspot. Median household income is around $38,000 a year, still far below the national average. Poverty rates hover near 10%, which might seem okay, but it's misleading. The core problem isn't extreme poverty, it's the absence of opportunity. Jobs are almost entirely in local services, small-scale farming, or public sector roles. The population is stagnant, businesses are minimal, and after sundown, the town falls nearly silent. After quiet, aging towns like Niobrara, Winnemucca shows a different kind of worst small town, a place that works hard but never truly feels stable. Located in northern Nevada, this desert town of about 8,000 people sits in the middle of a dry, isolated landscape, far from any major city. On the surface, Winnemucca looks more alive thanks to gold mining and truck traffic along Interstate 80, but its economy is notoriously boom and bust. When mining is good, money flows. When it slows down, the town sinks with it. While average incomes appear higher than in many other small towns, the cost of living, long working hours, and dependence on a single industry make life here fragile. Crime, especially drug-related cases and domestic violence, is a real issue. Strangely enough, Winnemucca is often called a stopover, not a destination, a place people pass through, not settle in. And for many, that's the real problem. If Winnemucca struggles with economic swings, Eagle Pass faces a constant kind of pressure that never really lets up. This border town in southern Texas has around 28,000 residents and sits directly across the Rio Grande from Mexico. Economically, it lags well behind national standards. Median household income sits in the mid $40,000 range, while about 1 in 4 people live below the poverty line. Jobs are mostly in retail, service, and low-wage sectors. People work hard here, but moving up feels almost impossible. The tension that comes with being a border town, smuggling, migrant detention, federal enforcement, creates a non-stop, draining atmosphere. While some crime stats vary, the feeling of insecurity remains strong. Eagle Pass often shows up in national news, not for progress, but because of border crises. If Eagle Pass feels weighed down by poverty, Williston proves that big money doesn't always mean a better life. This small town in western North Dakota, home to about 27,000 people, was once the epicenter of the Bakken shale oil boom. On paper, Williston looks successful. The median household income is around $84,000, well above the US average. But the reality is more complicated. The oil boom sent rent and housing prices skyrocketing, often canceling out those high wages. Infrastructure couldn't keep up. Public services lagged, and crime, especially drug use, violence, and social disorder, spiked during the boom years. Even though the industry has slowed, the aftershocks remain. Williston was once called one of the most chaotic boom towns in America, and some scars still haven't healed. Meanwhile, Lake Charles lives in a loop of disaster and recovery. Once called the festival capital of Louisiana, it's now better known for never-ending cleanup efforts. This southwest Louisiana city has about 75,000 residents, with an economy tied to petrochemical plants and a regional port. On paper, it's okay. Median household income sits around $55,000. But 18 to 20% of people still live in poverty. The biggest problem? Nature itself. In just a short span, Lake Charles was slammed by Hurricanes Laura and Delta in 2020, followed by more storms that battered both infrastructure and community morale. Thousands of homes were damaged, insurance rates soared, and many families still haven't fully recovered. Add the smell of heavy industry, environmental risks, and extreme weather, and you get a place that feels stuck between rebuilding and breaking down. If Lake Charles lives under threat from hurricanes, Tonopah's enemy is quieter, total isolation. This desert town in central Nevada has about 2,400 residents, wedged between Reno and Las Vegas, each over 3 hours away. There's no major city nearby, and daily life reflects that deeply. Economically, Tonopah is fragile. Median household income sits around $45,000 to $50,000, with about 17% living in poverty, higher than the national average. Jobs are mostly in local government, small-scale mining, and basic services. Entertainment is nearly non-existent, healthcare is limited, and the climate is harsh, scorching summers, freezing winters. Tonopah is known as one of Nevada's most haunted towns, a reputation that mirrors its real vibe: quiet, aging, and frozen in time. Clearlake offers a much louder kind of problem. Clearlake itself is contaminated by natural mercury from old mining and volcanic activity. The town of Clearlake, on its shores, is home to about 15,000 people. The view is beautiful, but the reputation is bleak. For years, Clearlake has consistently ranked well above the state average for violent and property crime, landing it on lists of California's most dangerous small towns. Economically, it's shaky. The median household income is around $40,000, while 25 to 30% live below the poverty line. Drug issues and crime feed off each other. You'll see abandoned buildings, run-down motels, and whole neighborhoods that feel like they stopped evolving decades ago. Hildale feels bleak because of its social environment. This small town on the Utah-Arizona border has a population of around 3,000, and for decades it was known as the headquarters of the FLDS, Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a closed-off religious sect once led by Warren Jeffs, now serving life in prison. The effects still linger. Hildale has a long history of strict social control, illegal polygamy, and restrictions on education and individual freedom, especially for women and children. Economically, median household income is around $45,000, with poverty levels higher than Utah's average, a state usually considered prosperous. In recent years, there have been efforts to normalize the town and welcome new residents, but social tensions remain. Hildale and its twin city, Colorado City, were once dubbed the polygamous twin towns by national media. King Cove isn't poor or crime-ridden, but living here means constantly battling nature, distance, and extreme limitations. This tiny town at the edge of the Alaska Peninsula has just 800 residents, isolated by frigid waters and often brutal weather. There's no road connecting King Cove to any major city. Residents rely on small planes or boats, frequently grounded by storms or thick fog. Economically, King Cove revolves around fishing, especially seasonal seafood processing. Median income is relatively high for a small town, but it's misleading. Cost of living is sky high, groceries are expensive, and job options are extremely narrow. The biggest issue is medical access. The nearest full hospital is hours away, and in an emergency, delays can be deadly. If King Cove gambles with weather, Bethel tests your social and mental endurance. This town of about 6,300 residents is the regional hub of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, serving dozens of remote villages, yet still has no road access to any major city. Everything comes by plane or river, which makes life expensive from day one. On paper, median household income is around $55,000, but that's misleading. About 25% of residents live below the poverty line, and food, fuel, and housing costs are among the highest in the U.S. Many areas have alcohol bans, but problems with bootlegging, drugs, and violence remain high. Extreme weather, long dark seasons, and a lack of entertainment add to the mental strain. Interestingly, Bethel is often called the unofficial capital of Western Alaska, a place people come to survive, not thrive. Utqiaġvik, the northernmost city in the U.S., is a test of human psychology. Formerly known as Barrow, the city reverted to its Inupiat name in 2016. With a population of around 4,900, it sits along the Arctic Ocean with no road connection to the outside world. Everything must be flown in, which drives up living costs across the board, from groceries to fuel. Statistically, the economy looks paradoxical. Median household income is $85,000, driven by government and energy sector jobs. But still, about 20% live in poverty, and the wealth gap is noticeable. The real challenge here is the environment. Utqiaġvik endures about 65 days of total darkness each winter during the polar night. Brutal cold, complete isolation, and months without sunlight all contribute to high rates of seasonal depression. On paper, Pahrump looks fine. This desert town has around 45,000 residents and is often marketed as a cheap alternative to Las Vegas. But once you live here, the problems start to show. Pahrump is a town without direction, growing fast, but without a strong economic base. The median household income is around $48,000, while the poverty rate hovers around 20%, high for a place where living costs keep rising. Jobs are mostly in low-wage service work, small casinos, and temporary gigs, making financial stability hard to find. Summers are brutal, regularly hitting over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, worsening the quality of life. Pahrump is also known for its legal brothels, a tourist draw, but not a real economic solution. The town is often called a place for people trying to escape, yet many newcomers end up stuck with no real opportunities. Next, there's Slab City, often called the last free place in America. No taxes, no rules, no oversight. But Slab City is extreme because there's no system at all. Located in the Imperial County Desert in California, Slab City isn't an official town. It's an off-grid community built atop the concrete slabs of a former World War II military base. There's no public power, no clean water, no sanitation, and no formal law enforcement. Summers are brutal, with temperatures regularly reaching 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 45 degrees Celsius, and heat stroke deaths are not uncommon. Many residents have no permanent address, relying on DIY solar power and water deliveries. Drug use, mental illness, and violence are common, but rarely documented due to the community's unofficial status. Slab City isn't just a hard place to live. It's an extreme example of how total freedom without structure can turn from idealism into danger. If Slab City collapsed from having no system, Gary collapsed because a once successful system died. The hometown of Michael Jackson, Gary was once a symbol of America's steel industry. Today, from a peak of 175,000 residents, only about 65,000 remain, surrounded by abandoned buildings, shuttered schools, and empty homes. Economically, the city is struggling. Median household income hovers between $35,000, well below the national average. Over 30% of residents live below the poverty line, and local job opportunities are scarce after the collapse of the steel industry. Crime, especially violent crime, has consistently ranked among the highest in Indiana, making parts of the city feel unsafe, even in broad daylight. If Gary reflects the collapse of industry, East St. Louis shows the brutal effects of long-term structural failure. Located just across the Mississippi River, this small city now has only around 18,000 residents, down from over 80,000 at its mid-20th century peak. The population loss left behind vacant blocks, fragile public services, and a visible sense of abandonment. Economically, it's in deep distress. Median household income sits around $27,000, one of the lowest in Illinois. About a third of the population lives in poverty, with very limited job prospects. East St. Louis has also long been known for violent crime rates far above the national average, creating a persistent stigma despite efforts to revitalize. Ironically, the city was once a major hub for jazz and blues music, but cultural legacy couldn't stop the economic and social collapse that followed. Jackson shows how a city can fail even while still functioning as a state capital. Once nicknamed the City with Soul for its deep African-American musical and cultural roots, Jackson has a population of around 150,000, larger than most towns on this list. Yet in terms of quality of life, many of its neighborhoods feel like a collapsed small town. The city's most infamous issue is its clean water crisis. For years, residents have dealt with aging pipes, inconsistent water pressure, and repeated boil water notices that come and go like routine. Economically, Jackson is falling behind. Median household income sits at around $43,000, well below the national average, and about 25% of its residents live in poverty. Job opportunities are limited, the tax base is shrinking, and the middle class continues to move out to the suburbs. Violent crime rates are among the highest in Mississippi, further accelerating the exodus from the city. Picher is a town that's been officially abandoned. Once a small community in northeastern Oklahoma, it used to thrive on lead and zinc mining. Today, Picher's population is nearly zero after a massive federal relocation effort took place in the late 2000s. The reason was simple and horrifying. The land, air, and water were toxic. For decades, mining waste built up into huge chat piles, mountains of leftover material contaminated with heavy metals. Children in Picher were found to have dangerously high lead levels in their blood, triggering a full-blown public health crisis. In 2009, Picher was officially declared part of the largest Superfund site in the US, and the town was effectively shut down. In a tragic twist, a massive tornado hit in 2008, destroying many of the few buildings still left standing, as if nature itself was closing the chapter for good. If Picher was toxic on the surface, Centralia is dangerous from beneath the ground. This small town in Pennsylvania is one of the most infamous examples of a place destroyed by a man-made disaster. Since 1962, an underground coal mine fire has been burning beneath Centralia, and it's expected to keep burning for hundreds more years. Toxic smoke seeps from cracks in the earth, roads have buckled and collapsed, and carbon monoxide levels have at times reached lethal concentrations. The US government carried out a massive relocation program. From over 1,000 residents, only a handful remain today, refusing to leave. In 2002, the USPS officially revoked Centralia's Utqiaġvik code. Interestingly, the town is often cited as a visual inspiration for the horror movie Silent Hill, though not officially adapted from it. Now, Centralia stands as a place of fog, silence, and danger, a chilling reminder of what happens when a fire starts underground and no one can put it out. After Centralia, which burns silently underground, Whittier feels suffocating in a completely different way, not from fire, but from isolation and confinement. This coastal town in southern Alaska has a population of about 300 people, and what makes it famous, or just plain weird, is the fact that almost all of its residents live in the same building. Baggage Towers, a former military structure from the World War II era. Inside, you'll find apartments, the police station, a clinic, a small store, and even a church. Life in Whittier is literally centered around one concrete tower. The town is connected to the outside world by just one tunnel, about 2.5 miles long, which opens and closes on a set schedule and is shared by cars and trains. When bad weather hits, or the tunnel shuts down, Whittier becomes completely isolated. The local economy depends on seasonal tourism and a few small government jobs. Employment options are limited, and the cost of living is high. Whittier is also one of the wettest towns in America, with rain or snow on more than 200 days a year. Living here isn't about crime or deep poverty. It's about physical isolation, tight quarters, and the slow psychological pressure of being surrounded, always, by the same walls and the same people.